Well, good afternoon, financial professionals. My name is Jennifer Nadeau, case design specialist here at E4 Insurance Services, welcoming you to The Brew, building relationships every week. Thank you for tuning in today. And for those of you joining the Brewcast for the first time, welcome. We like to kick off the Brewcast by celebrating what today's National Day is. And we're still going through the month of January. I think it's the third week of January. And as every day, January is National Financial Wellness Month. So we're going through that in the month of January. It's also National Opposite Day. It's National Florida Day, which I'm on in the Northeast. I certainly wish I was in Florida today. And it's also National Irish Coffee Day. So if you care to indulge. On today's brew, we welcome Nationwide Central Regional Vice President Lisa.Quist and E4 Insurance Services' very own VP of Institutional Accounts, and also, dare I say, one of our brew favorites, Steve Walker, as they both talk about the Land as Your Legacy program offered through Nationwide. Lisa and Steve will share with us what the Land as Your Legacy program is, tips and sales ideas, and how to get started. Feel free to use the chat box to share your thoughts or ask questions. Also, as always, all attendees are in a drawing for a prize, which is a CE voucher and a Starbucks gift card. And we'll be announcing the winner at the end of the call today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Lisa and Steve, of course, welcome to the Brew today. Happy to have you both on. It's exciting to have two guests on today.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
thanks for having us. Excited to be on and talk a little Land as Your Legacy.
Absolutely. And Lisa, we're definitely going to throw some questions your way. But before we talk about the Land as Your Legacy program itself, Steve, I would love it if you could kick it off today, because I know you have experience with implementing this program and talking about this program. Before we get even into it, can you share with us why advisors and their clients should even consider this type of program?
Yeah, no, absolutely. A family farm is no different than any other business. I mean, it's a big asset for the family, and they want to make sure that it's not only protected, but the goals that they have, who is going to take it over, who's going to manage it, make sure it stays in the family. Those things happen, and realistically, as advisors, I think we've got a duty to make sure at least offer that up to those clients. Because if you ask many clients, and I know Lisa will talk a little bit about her own personal experience as well, but if you ask many family farmers, they think that they're good. They think that they have a succession plan. The problem is most of the time it's up in their head, or it's written on a bar napkin from 2 a.m. after a couple too many cocktails. But ultimately, they really do need to have that sit down, talk about what their goals are, what their concerns are, who they want to take over the farm, and go from there. So it's really an important thing to do. And I'm going to show real quick. I'll share my screen here. So the thing I really appreciate about the Land as Your Legacy program with Nationwide is it's not just a singular focus. It's really big picture, and it's going to look at succession planning, business planning, risk management, financial independence or retirement, and then estate planning. And how do they all work together? Because people don't often think about my estate plan and what I have in my trusts and in my will, in those types of things. They need to work with my business planning. How are my entities set up? Who is that successor? What type of risk management? Again, they all tie together. And the thing I really appreciate the Land as Your Legacy program is it's it looks at everything and it really works together. So great program, and we're doing a disservice to those farm clients if we're not offering up to review. Even if they think that they're okay, we'll take a look and say, what you have today, is it hitting on those goals and concerns?
Okay, so yeah, and that kind of tees up my next question for you too, Steve, but just to kind of level set. So the land is your legacy. Um, what we're talking about here is we're targeting the farming community, correct? That's who we're looking at.
Yep.
And it's not just succession planning, it's all of those bullet points that you just outlined on that brochure. So think about the brew. We talk a lot about business planning, but we haven't specifically hit on the farming community, and it's unique in its own right, right? And it's important. So
It really is.
thank you for that. So my next question for you, and you touched on it a little bit, but let's go into it a bit more. And then Lisa, we'll get over to you. But who should have a transition plan when we're thinking about this?
Really, everybody should. All family farmers should have a plan in place. And again, like I mentioned, even if they have an existing plan, we will review all the documents that they have. And the team at Nationwide does a great job of making recommendations of whether you have an existing plan or if you're starting from scratch, and how is it hitting on those goals and concerns that you're looking at. Because ultimately, if somebody doesn't have a plan in place, I can have all the greatest ideas of what I want to have happen, but if I don't document those and do the things that again, eventually we'll have to work with an attorney to draft up the legal documents. If we don't have a plan put together and in place and executed, then farmers got to start thinking, which one of my neighbors am I going to sell my land to, or more importantly, which one of my neighbors is my wife and kids going to sell the land to? And if you ask that question, you're going to get some glares. You might get things thrown at you because no farmer wants to sell to their neighbor. It's just in their blood. And really, what I really appreciate about this is we look, and it's not just, hey, here's the goals and concerns that we think that you should be considering. We look and we ask both spouses, rank your top goals. What do we need to talk about? And really use those as those cornerstones. Not to generalize or anything along those lines, but a lot of times when we have those discussions, it's pretty common where the husband's main concern is, I want to make sure that the farm stays in the family and I pay as little to nothing in taxes. And the wife's number one goal a lot of times is, I want to make sure that the family harmony stays together. The kids and grandkids are still getting together at Christmas and dinner and having those meals together, not fighting and quarreling over money. So again, not every time, but a lot of times those are the top two goals, and they don't always line up. So it's good to have those discussions.
Wonderful. Lisa, hello
Yeah.
again.
Hello.
I'm going to ask you to talk a bit about the plan and to get into more of the nitty gritty with it. But before we do that, and Steve alluded to it, and I think it's really important also just to establish that you're not just another person from another carrier talking about another topic. This is very personal to you and something that you're very passionate about. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your story and then transition into the program, that would be great.
Absolutely. So before I came to Nationwide, a couple jobs before Nationwide, my husband and I actually farmed in South Central Minnesota. We ran a 1,200-acre corn and soybean operation, and we were the 7th generation to run the family's land. We made the decision in 2012 to sell out of farming due to lack of a transition plan on my father-in-law's part. So I'm super passionate about this topic and this work. My father-in-law did not pass away, but my husband has 9 brothers and sisters, and all he was willing to do was a simple equalization will. I love you will is what we call it, where he's going to divide all the assets equally among 10 kids, my husband and then his 9 siblings. And we just couldn't see our future, our way forward in that, and have make it be a financially responsible decision for us to make for our family and our children. So we walked away. We made that choice. He is still farming. On his own, but we made the choice that it wasn't the best decision for us to stay. So if I can, everything comes full circle, right? So if I can take my situation, there's nothing about my life that's the same. I now live in Iowa. I'm clearly not farming anymore. My husband isn't farming anymore. Nothing is the same as it was when we were farming, because when that's your plan, when you're generation two and your plan is to farm for the rest of your life, when that option gets taken off the table, you just have to reset on everything, which makes this work really important. So if I can share my story and convince generation one to do the work, it is hard work. It takes a long time, and it's a lot of really difficult decisions that need to be made and difficult conversations that need to be had. And I understand that, but none of those conversations are as hard as watching everything that you've worked for get sold on the auction block, probably to the neighbor.
Yeah.
So I'm super passionate about this. I have worked with the program in different capacities for about 6 years. And I just really believe in what Nationwide is doing. This is at the heart of who we are as a company. We were started by farmers. We continue to be run by farmers. The majority of our board of directors are active farmers, always have been, always will be. The chairman of our board is an active farmer. And we just really keep that as the heart of the company of who we are as Nationwide. So we put this program together to help farmers and ranchers transition their farms successfully, and to give them those pieces that they need in order to be able to do that. We've got our team on staff. I work with advisors like Steve. The advisor is the one working with the clients. I'm not meeting with clients. That's the advisor's role, like Steve. And then we've got a team that sits in our main office in Columbus, Ohio, that's financial planners and attorneys actually putting the plans together for the clients.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing a bit of your story too. I just think it's very compelling. Steve, I know, and I talked about this in the beginning a bit too, that you've been talking about this within your own business and your own territory, if you will. I think you might have a success story or an example that you can share with us. And we do have some time with that. If you'd take a couple of minutes, that would be great.
Yeah, no, it's oftentimes there's a lot of successes that come through this Land is Your Legacy program. And one thing I'll reiterate time and time again with advisors is it's not a quick process. Putting the plan together Nationwide, and the team is very efficient at doing that. But oftentimes from an implementation standpoint, and the clients ultimately doing the legal work, as well as any insurance or annuity products that make sense to fund their plan, it takes time. I've got one client that we started a plan with last year, probably about this time last year, down in South Dakota. They went through the planning process. Ultimately, me and their financial advisor met with their attorney, and we just laid out after reviewing the plan, the clients loved it, and they just brought it to the attorney and said, here's what we want to do. And you think about that, attorneys aren't cheap. And if you can save 20, 30, 40 billable hours with an attorney for a plan that you get complimentary, you're already adding value to your client's life. But they went through, they updated their wills, they got the trust, they weren't set up appropriately from a business planning perspective. So from an LLC and an incorporation standpoint, they got that taken care of. And in a couple of weeks, a few weeks, I think later in February, if I remember right, we'll be meeting with the client again, because they've got one son that does want to continue to farm, and they've got one son that has zero interest in it. So they don't want to disinherit the other son. They've got the ability to utilize life insurance because of the great tax efficiency, leverage, and predictability that life insurance offers. Utilizing that product is a great opportunity. So we're going to sit down. We'll start with our informal underwriting process, and one of the nice things, Nationwide does do this plan as no cost to us or the advisor or the client. They don't require that the business goes with Nationwide. Now, they certainly, we're going to do what we can, and ultimately we want to make sure that we're not just taking advantage and steering business elsewhere, but they'll be the first. And I know Lisa's told me this time and time again, if Nationwide's not the fit and they can get it and it's 30%, more expensive at Nationwide, 40%, then we can get somewhere else, let's take care of the clients. So really excited to have this one continuing on.
So no administration fees, I should say, to execute on this planning. And just hearing that myself from being in the industry, that's a huge talking point as well. So
there is implementation costs. So just to be clear, we're not drafting documents for the clients. So if they are doing work with the attorney, they're going to have fees with the attorneys. They're going to have fees with their CPAs. So there is implementation cost, but the actual plan from Nationwide, we do not charge.
Not wonderful. Thank you. We're going to open it up for questions in just a second, but before I do, I'd like to just offer any closing comments from either of you. Lisa, there's a training component that goes along with this as well.
That is correct. So that does make it a little bit different than a normal offering from an insurance company. I'm not trying to train you. It's just an hour conference call with me. I'm not trying to train you how to be an advisor. You already have those skills. You could probably teach me a thing or two, but what we're trying to do is we get the feedback all of the time that the learning curve for the first plan or two is pretty steep. And so we're trying to close that gap and set you up for success. We're going to go through best practices, how to use our marketing materials, and just kind of the nuts and bolts of how to work through a plan with your client, how to have those conversations. And if you're looking for more information, you can reach out to either Steve or Jennifer to get my contact information. It's lisa.quist at nationwide.com. Pretty simple. But you can reach out to them for my contact information to get in contact with me.
Great. Thank you. Steve, any closing comments, or we'll open it up for questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think, ultimately there's a lot of great resources between the client guide I showed a couple of pages on earlier, a sample plan. We can help if any advisors want to look through that or have a one-on-one reach out to myself or any of the E4 team members that you happen to work with directly. We're happy to have a one-on-one sit down with you, go through the sample plan, go through what that looks like. Now, Lisa mentioned the training. If you want to go through the plan and you're not trained, just work with myself or one of the other E4 team members that are trained, and we are certified in the Land is Your Legacy program. We can be there with you step by step throughout the process. So great opportunity. If you've got clients that want to do one-on-one meetings, seminars, definitely I would be more than happy to work with that.
Great. Thank you. Let's open it up for questions now. But as always, while we're waiting to see if there's any final questions, I'd like to remind everyone that today's brew and our full library are recorded and shared on the Brew blog, which is on our website at www.e4.insurance. And let's do our giveaway too now. Lisa, if you could do the honors and pick a number between 1 and 15.
1 and 15. I'm going to go with 11.
Oh, lucky number 11. That winner is Joseph Kiemig. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Joseph. Congratulations. Be on the lookout for a complimentary CE voucher and Starbucks gift card that will be coming your way from all of us here at E4 Insurance Services. So thanks for tuning in today, Joseph. And I am just looking to see if there are any questions. Also to remind everyone, if you'd like to, you can unmute your line and ask a question too, if you'd like. So I am just pausing through the chat box here.
You were pretty close. You were pretty close on Joseph's pronunciation.
Oh, good.
Pretty close.
Good. It's always interesting with me when I go to pronounce them. So I'm glad. Congratulations again, Joseph. You are very welcome. I am not seeing any questions, so we'll close out the call today. Thank you very much, Lisa, for joining us today. Steve, as always, thanks for bringing us great content. We enjoyed having both of you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Tune in next week as we welcome Mutual of Omaha's Vice President of Life Underwriting, Virginia Craig. Virginia will share with attendees how innovation and technology are changing the landscape in underwriting. That's an understatement. We look forward to having Virginia on next week. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. We will see you next week on The Brew. Have a great week, everyone.